Hey guys, it's the Budget Epicurean, and today I'm bringing you my famous lasagna. So lasagna can be made many different ways. Obviously, it can contain meat such as ground beef, ground turkey, sausage, or it can be vegetarian, and you can use regular lasagna noodles. You could slice zucchini or eggplant very thinly. But tonight's recipe is just going to be a plain classic lasagna. So I have lasagna noodles, of course, as the base. I will be using a pound of ground turkey. I like to use ground turkey whenever I can rather than ground beef because it is a little bit more lean and just slightly more healthy for you in general. And there are a couple ways that I like to kind of sneak healthy food into classics like lasagna. One of them being adding mushrooms to the meat mixture. So mushrooms are great because they cook up to a kind of umami flavor and a meaty texture. So when you slice up the mushrooms small and mix them in with the meat, most times you won't even notice they're there. So I've got some white button mushrooms, and then I've also got some Asian enoki mushrooms left over from another recipe. So I'm just gonna throw all that together in a pot to cook with some seasonings, and that'll be great for our meat layer. I'm also going to put in about a half of a white onion diced up finely. So onion, mushroom, and ground turkey, way healthier than just ground beef by itself. And then another way I like to sneak in healthy food is by adding a layer of spinach. So I'll layer the lasagna, the meat and mushrooms, the sauce, and spinach, and then do the next layer. So adding that layer of spinach, it kind of cooks into a nice soft texture, and you barely notice it's there other than it's green. So if you have picky eaters or people who don't get enough greens in their diet, try adding a little bit of spinach. You can even do half the lasagna with spinach, half without, and kind of ease them into that extra vegetable. And then I have the sauce. I just got a can of regular pasta sauce, and I'm also adding an extra can, a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. So that will add to the tomato flavor, add a little bit more lycopene and nutrient content to the whole recipe. I have been known in the past to cook and blend either cooked carrots or beans. You can sneak all kinds of vegetable juices in. Pasta sauce is a great place for hiding extra nutrient content. So we've got the sauce, some vegetable oil that I'm going to use to keep the noodles from sticking together, and then the, of course, cheese layer. If you're vegetarian or vegan, you can try crushing up tofu and using that and maybe some nutritional yeast instead of the traditional cheese layer. You don't really need it to make a good lasagna, but I'm going to use a blend of some sour cream and cottage cheese. So I know most lasagna recipes call for ricotta, but ricotta cheese tends to be more expensive, and cottage cheese is very affordable. So whenever I've made lasagna in the past, I just use cottage cheese and mix it with a little sour cream or maybe even cream cheese, and it tastes just fine. And cottage cheese actually has a pretty high protein content, especially if you use the low-fat kind, so it's actually quite healthy for you. And then I have a small block of sharp white cheddar that I'm going to grate over top. I just need to use this up, and lasagna is the perfect recipe for that. So I have a pot of water boiling here for the noodles, and I'm just going to add a little bit of plain salt and a drizzle of oil. So the salt will help flavor the noodles a little bit, and the oil will coat the noodles, so once I drain them, they're less likely to stick together. So I have one big pot. I'm going to boil my noodles in. Once the noodles are boiled, I'll drain them and put them aside, and then put the meat and onions and mushrooms in the same pot. So hopefully cutting down on dishes a little bit. And then I have my 9x13 pan that I'll use to actually bake lasagna. So while we wait for the water to boil, I'm just gonna chop up my mushrooms and onions. So I'm just gonna chop up my veggies, and I'm gonna show you how I chop up onions and mushrooms and garlic. So this is what the chopped up garlic looks like, and this is what the garlic cloves look like. So I found the easiest way to cut these is to first chop up that bottom flat part, like so. And then you can peel the cloves individually. And if you kind of smush the clove a little bit, this skin comes off easier, just like that. And you can see the garlic has kind of started to sprout. That's totally fine. You can still use this. So I'm just gonna cut it in half and then roughly chop it. And that's it. Now this can be thrown into the pan to cook with the meat. This is the enoki mushrooms. They grow in long, thin strands like this, so I just kind of pull them apart, separate them a little. For button mushrooms, I like to slice them thinly, like so. If you put them flat on the caps, they'll kind of help to keep it sitting still. And then turn it and slice the other direction. And if you want the long stem pieces, you can even cut those a little smaller. Just a rough chop, because this will all be cooked in together with the ground turkey. So slice it one way, turn it, slice it the other way. Nothing too fancy or tricky. Just cut it up however small you like it. And last but not least, the onion. So I've already cut it in half and removed the outer skin. Then I just lay it flat and start going in at an angle, cutting it into strips like so. So all the way down the onion is cut, and then turn it sideways and cut across. And sometimes it likes to slide around on that last cut. Be very careful with your fingers. And there you go. So that'll give you a rough diced onion. Okay, so I'm going to throw all that in with the meat and get it cooking. Okay, so I've got my ground turkey starting to cook in here. This is the pan that I use to cook the noodles. Let that simmer and add in my onion, garlic, and mushrooms. Okay. So we'll let that simmer covered for about 4 to 5 minutes. Let everything kind of meld flavor-wise, and meanwhile, I've drained my noodles. You can see I lined my pan with 4 noodles and I overlapped them so there's no break in the noodles. So that'll be the base and what we're going to start layering on top of. Then I have the cottage cheese and sour cream mixed together in a bowl ready to go. And I'll open my sauces. Okay. I should probably know better than to work with pasta sauce while wearing white, but we'll see what happens. So everything's all ready to layer as soon as the meat is done. Okay, so now everything's cooked and ready to go. I have my lasagna assembly station set up. I've got the cooked meat with onions and mushrooms, the lasagna pan obviously, extra noodles, spinach, sauce, and cheese. So if you wanted to use one more bowl, you could mix the sauce and meat together, but I'm just going to put them on top of each other to save myself dishes later. So I've got my first layer of noodles, and I'm gonna take my meat and put about half in the pan. Delightful. Spread that around so every bite will be varied and delicious. Okay. And then pour some sauce. A little bit less than half of each type. Spread that out again. Then the cheese layer, kind of just sprinkle that around. Again, approximately half. Doesn't have to be exact. And spread that out. Okay, nice thick layer of spinach. This stuff will cook down to almost nothing, so it may look like a lot, but it's really not. Okay, then the next layer of noodles, and I put oil in the water to help them stick together less, but it's a fine line between letting them cool enough so you can work with them and not letting them dry out so they all stick together. So that's some timing you'll just have to figure out. I use 4 to 5 noodles per layer. Again, overlapping the noodles so there's no gap between them. Oh, it's still steaming. Oh, that was close. I didn't know if they would come apart. Okay, so there's layer 1, and then I'll just repeat that with more meat. I like to scrape up every last bit of flavor. Spread it around. sauce. And save a little bit to finish with. So, just a little bit left for the top layer. Okay, spread it around. Right. Looking good. See that? Sauce and meat and deliciousness. Okay, this is gonna be good. Another little chunk of spinach. There you go. Okay. Top layer of noodles. Cover that with sauce. And grate a sharp white cheddar on top. Okay, and there you have it. A gorgeous lasagna ready to be popped in the oven. You could also freeze this and store it to be cooked at a later date. Just pop it in the oven for about 25 minutes on 350 and you're good to go. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please subscribe or go check out my website, www.budgetepicurean.com.